Welcome back to Boom and Bust. I'm here with Keith Jansa. He is the CEO of the Canadian Digital Governance Council. Keith, just apropos of what I said just before the break, the generative AI is a case in point of rapid technological change, and yet how a government anywhere, I'm not just talking about Canada, but anywhere in the world, deals with that change through a legislative process that could take months or years. So when the technology is changing so rapidly, how can overseers, meet that challenge?
Well, it's a collective approach. It's part for the reason why the Digital Governance Council exists in the first place, to cross-cut industries and sectors to have responsible conversations and strategic discussions on how we ensure our competitiveness while at the same time social prosperity for Canadians. And to do that, we need to be collaborative, not only between governments across all levels, but across through to industry. And when you talk about that legislative process, that's one tool in the toolbox in regards to levers that can be pulled to effectively influence market behaviors. There are other tools. You talk about the research and development, the investments going into AI in Canada. There are a number of contribution agreements helping to support this research. But when you look at the commercialization of the technology in Canada, Canada's quite poor.
Mm.
And it's in part because we're not pulling on levers when it comes to the contracting that governments get into with industry to advance, or with academic institutions to advance the IP in Canada and to ultimately collect rents and to be able to commercialize that technology. You have standards that are an unsung hero in regards to having a voluntary codified set of rules that organizations can demonstrate due diligence against. And unfortunately, in Canada, our standardization versus our regulatory legislative systems are separate. They're not as integrated as you see in places like Europe or in the US, where, quite frankly, all those tools in the toolbox are afforded to by the legislature, by government officials, and within industry in playing their respective roles. That unfortunately, we need to be a little bit more coordinated here at home to effectively pull on those levers collectively to have the responsible design and use of these technologies.
Yeah, I just want to again focus on one aspect of what you said, because part of the challenge, I think, maybe particularly in Canada, is balancing between encouraging innovation, but that also avoiding negative consequences of a technological change. So, where do you and your council see that balance?
Well, in large respects, it's about being able to demonstrate due diligence.
Mm.
When you're talking about the responsible design of any technology or any good governance, it requires a set of criteria and questions that you want to ask to be able to demonstrate to the market, to customers, to clients, in the case of government, to citizens, that you're stewarding the technology in such a way that can be entrusted and can be used. This is just standard good governance. The challenge when it comes to emerging technologies that disrupt industries and only affording to legislative instruments,
Mm.
given the pace of those instruments, is unfortunately to no avail in terms of having the responsible need within the market to have these technologies regulated. So when I talk about regulating emerging technologies, I'm not talking about the big R necessarily in terms
Okay,
of regulation and official mandatory. I'm talking about just the way in which we govern
gotcha.
and the way in which we can follow respective norms that meet Canadian values and ensure that customers that are interacting with these technologies, that are consuming these technologies, that are using them, can feel entrusted, whether it's with respect to the way in which the organization goes about its privacy or cybersecurity, that as a citizen or as a customer engaged in that interaction, that your data is being controlled effectively, responsibly, and that there's not going to be those consequences that you alluded to earlier with respect to those types of transactions.
Yeah, we've got about a half a minute before the break. So what you're talking about maybe is a process where industry, government, and other institutions come together to work out a framework. Then.
That's exactly it. You have a standard setting infrastructure in Canada with Standards Council of Canada as the national standards body and accreditation body that oversees the system, and that
Right.
Crown Corporation reporting into innovation, science, and economic development with its legislative and regulatory roles need to be better
Right.
integrated
Gotcha.
to effectively control the market behaviors or to influence and change
Right.
those market